Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the workshop. Thank you for making the time this Saturday afternoon. I see there's some interesting stuff going on TV which I found out about last night, so it's good that you guys made time for it. So let's begin. We'll start with this picture. I'll let you guys think about it. Okay, so if you want to take a picture of this, if you have registered in the email, then you should have this link already. This would give you access to all the slides and content. For those watching online, we'll also put the link in the video description, inshallah. Okay, so going once, twice, and okay, so let me remind you of the 4 gifts that we will be getting today. So it's reported from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when a group of people assemble for the remembrance of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala, the angels surround them with their wings, Allah's mercy envelops them, sakina or tranquility descends upon them, and Allah makes a mention of them in front of those near Him. So at the very least, anytime we go, inshallah, for any sort of gathering, for the sake of Allah, remembering Allah, let's at least expect that. And hopefully we'll get more than that as we learn, discuss, and apply the knowledge, inshallah. So here's something, hopefully everybody knows what this is. Anybody doesn't know what this is? Okay, maybe some of the younger ones can tell me, how is this different from the taps that we are used to? Yes? Okay, so what happens if you stop pumping? If you stop pumping, if you stop pressing, what happens? Okay, so you don't get water anymore. Okay, so the reason I'm putting this is basically this training, there's 2 parts. One is my part to prepare and deliver, and then there's a part that's on you, which is also applicable for any workshop, any course that you go to, and that is the effort that you will be putting in. Okay, especially those watching online, you could be multitasking with 20 tabs open, or you can focus on one thing, learn it, think about how you will apply it, and then actually apply it. Otherwise, the water will stop coming as, what's your name? As Muhammad told us. Okay, so what's the goal? Why are we here? Thank you for filling in the form, so that gave me an understanding of why you're here. Let me take one from the brothers and one from the sisters of what's your expectation from today. Okay, who's going to go first? Why are you here?
To learn how to efficiently spread the word of Islam and how to actually be convincing in the arguments.
Okay, so efficiently spreading and being convincing. Okay, anybody from sisters? Yes.
I want to see what's the best way of getting Dawah without making mistakes.
Okay, so the best way of spreading without making mistakes. So one thing to understand is that it will not be a light switch that we can just flick and it will happen. So what needs to happen after the training is that you have to practice. Okay, you can't do anything wrong. Look, anybody who will become Muslim, who is supposed to become Muslim, will become Muslim even if we sleep. Okay, that's people don't like to say this, but let me put it out this way, right? Nobody will stop or nobody will be prevented from becoming a Muslim because of you and I. The question is, what do we want our role to be? Do we want to have a share of that reward? Do we want to be part of that journey? Do we want to have some efforts and get the rewards from Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala? So we have to be careful about how we teach and preach and share the message, but not too careful that we don't even try to do it. So hopefully, as you have dedicated time today, you will dedicate time after it as well, and then you will follow the suggested plan and actually implement it. My commitment is also, inshallah, will be there to support you. We have worked with a lot of people from the masjid. Many of the shahadas that you see on YouTube, I only met them. Some of them I have met several times, but many of them I just met the first time because the work is done by other people from the community. So I'll be here, inshallah, to partner and support you, but you have to put in that time and effort. Okay. So in module number 1, what we are talking about right now is just a quick recap of why you should spend your time in Dawah while you could be spending your time in so many other things. What's your objective? How do you determine if you're successful or not? And then what happens when someone takes Shahada? And how can you protect yourself while doing Dawah, right? That's also very important because when you drive a car, what kind of protection do you take? You use seat belt, right? But when you're riding a bicycle, there's no seat belt. So you have to do something different. When you go to hospital, the protection is different than when you're at home. Same thing when you go to other places. So as your role changes, as your environment changes, the level of protection also needs to change. So that's why I had these car keys and balloons earlier. And now I have showing some luxury cars. And here's the reason why. As the Prophet of Allah ﷺ said that by Allah, if a single person is guided by you, through you, it will be better for you than a whole lot of best camels. So if you don't appreciate camels, perhaps you appreciate luxury cars. So hopefully you can make that relation that it is something really, really rewarding. Like even just one person being guided through you. That person would have been guided regardless, okay? I'm not trying to make claim that it's only you or me or what have you. But hey, you know what? If we can be part of that journey, alhamdulillah. Another reason for spreading the dawah and working on dawah-related work is obviously the criteria for success in Surah Al-Asr just does not stop at you and your practice of Islam. It has that component of sharing with others, encouraging others to be patient, and also to be on the true path. Some other benefits that you get while being involved in dawah or any other community project, by the way, is that that's an opportunity for you to excel in earning the love of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala by doing voluntary good deeds. Okay? That ensures your higher level of stay in the vacation in paradise, and it also raises your own standard of living. So the quality of life, what happens is if you're not involved in any project, the things that you are thinking about day to day would be very shallow. You're worried about common day-to-day problems, things like that. However, once you embark on a mission, whether it be dawah or some other work, your life quality increases. You will not be wasting time on useless gossips, talking about other people. You will be focused on your mission and how you can deliver better on your mission. Okay. So having said that, let me just take like maybe what's your top reason to be involved in dawah. I want to take one from the sisters, one from the brothers. And hopefully as I ask more and more of these questions, even if you're not participating, do think about it. Like what's your main reason? Which of these things attract you, or maybe something else that attracts you? And hopefully for every question someone else can answer, so we'll have more participation inshallah. So what's your top reason? Like why do you think you should be involved in dawah? Yes. Okay, so as a means of increasing one's own iman, good. Okay, even from the brothers. And how they start picking.
I already mentioned.
Yeah, yes, that's nice. Okay. Saeed.
The objective is similar, right?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's the work of prophets, right? So very higher level of mission to have, right? That's what the main job of the prophets was. Very good. So when people get into dawah, then there's other things, right? That what is your metric, and what's your end goal? For some people, it's the shahadas. I just want to have like a bunch of shahadas. To get shahadas is very easy. Okay, if you just want shahadas, I can teach you some hacks and you can get shahadas. That's really easy. Okay, if some people will be like, I just want to create some interest. Okay, some people will be like, I want to continue the conversation and have conversations, and then finally use that conversation to help the person actually connect with Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. So you also need to know like what level and what role you want to play in the whole dawah activity or the dawah mission. Then how do you determine success? Right, so something really different when it comes to the work of the deen and with Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala compared to this world is that usually in the world you are rewarded for impact. Your bonus is tied to the impact, the number of sales, what you are creating, what value you're bringing to the organization. Even for nonprofit, what's your fundraising target, so on and so forth. Right? With Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala, it's your effort and your sincerity. So even if nobody takes shahada, you will still be rewarded for your effort. Okay? Obviously, you have the example of Nuh alayhi salam with 950 years of dawah and only a handful of people accepting Islam. So with Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala, the metric is efforts and sincerity, not necessarily the visible results. So if you try and then you have this thing, okay, every week I'm giving half an hour or 1 hour I'm trying or I'm talking to one person, that could be a good metric of success, regardless of what the worldly results are. And lastly, I also want to take this opportunity, although this is not the main topic of this workshop, is to realize what happens after Shahada. Okay? So if I were to bring your attention to the Seerah, when we had the Meccan period, was taking Shahada easy or hard in the Meccan period? Okay, were there any hypocrites in the Meccan period? Because the barrier to entry was really high. So if you take Shahada, you have to be serious. Okay? In Medinan period, obviously we had hypocrites. There were worldly benefits of taking Shahada, of becoming Muslim, right? So especially in the West today, taking Shahada or being Muslim does not come with a high cost. People think that it does, but usually it doesn't, especially in the West. Okay? So that's why it's easy to come into Islam, and it's very easy to not have anything to do with Islam the next day. So many people think that, okay, mashallah, the person has accepted Islam, he or she must be really serious, and he or she has a much higher level of iman than me. All that is usually false. Okay? Which means there's a lot that needs to happen for the new Muslims as well. And obviously in Quran, I'll just kind of rush through it because that's not our main topic, but just something that will give you an idea of the bigger picture here. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the general principle, right? This lady who is spinning her thread and then undoes it. Many times we do the same thing. We do the dawah, we put in so much effort and funds into dawah, and person takes shahada, and then that's it. We think we have become winners, and it's a success. That's why I mentioned earlier, what is your metric? Because if you're saying, okay, how many conversations I'm having, how many shahadas am I having, then obviously your efforts will be different as well. This is the prophetic guidance, right? When Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sending Mu'adh, he said first invite them to Tawheed, but then continue the work, then invite them to Salah, and so on and so forth. Now, from Shahada to Salah is a really, really big gap. Okay? And the main issue here is people don't realize it. People think, okay, Shahada means Salah is guaranteed by default. That is not happening. Okay? So once you realize there's a problem, then we'll put in effort. If you think there's no problem, then obviously nobody's going to put in effort for that. And obviously shaitan is not sitting, right? He's still active. So we might think, the person has taken Shahada, alhamdulillah, everything is good, but shaitan is still working very strategically. And finally, even from Quran, right? How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prioritized and instructed the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to take care of a new Muslim, simple common man, but that's one of the Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, compared to giving full attention to an influential non-Muslim. Or you can have a balanced approach, right? Some people or some resources put into taking care of new Muslims, and some into spreading to people who are not Muslims yet. Okay, any questions about this? About the new Muslim side of things? Just going to wrap it up. Yes?
I guess in order to represent or call people into Islam, then you have to be yourself carrying out some of the things that you are proposing to them.
Yes.
If you call someone to prayer, you have to be a praying person. Call someone to zakah, you have to make zakat yourself. Otherwise,
Good. Jazakallah khair. So the sister is pointing out to basically what you should be doing within yourself, right? So you can't be calling to something and be a hypocrite and not doing it. And that's what my last section is about, right? How do you protect yourself? Which kind of relates?
also it's not really, Jazakallah,
Right, yeah.
but I don't mean hypocrisy, I mean self-development rather. Because we all have shortcomings. But
Right.
We're also developing in the process, inshallah.
Sure. Very good observation. And actually, so her point from being like how you are growing in your Islam, right, while focusing on others, that's a very important point, right? As Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah, أَتَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبِرِّ وَتَنْسَوْنَ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Do you command people to the birr, to goodness, but you forget yourself, right? And many other places. Now, not only that, there is actually, let me stop on to, let me see if you guys can observe that. So taking it into a business analogy, okay? So imagine someone is running a business, I don't know, maybe selling candies, okay? Now, you sell candies, and then you see like every day somebody's coming, you have like 1,000 packets of candies being sold, and then you do the math at the end of the month, and you're like, I don't have any money in my bank account, okay? But you're selling thousands of candies every day. So what could be going wrong for that business? It's a business 101 as well. Yes. So, Saeed, do you think what could be going wrong on the balance sheet there?
So there's no effect.
Yeah, but how? What would you see on the balance sheet? Why don't I have money? Yeah, why don't I have money, right? I'm selling it. So you observe, you come in, wow, it's like 1,000 packs of candies being sold, right? Now you're going to go and sell your business. Look, I'm selling thousands of packs every day, right? And then he hires you, is like, dude, this guy doesn't have any cash flow. Let's investigate why, what's happening.
Candy's price too low, or it takes a lot to make the sell the candy?
Good, so that, yeah? No, yes. Okay, so you guys are thinking too deep, but this was a very, shallow thing. As the brother said, the expense is too high, right? The cost of getting candy is too high, right? So maybe, yeah, you're selling thousands of candies, but maybe it costs you to get 9 for $9.50 and you're selling a pack for 10. So you only have a 50 cents margin, and then you have other costs. So that's why you don't have cash flow in the bank account. Yes, you have sales, but you don't, right? And that's what I kind of related to what the sister was saying. In our work, the expense is you. So I'm giving dawah. I want to have someone become more people becoming Muslim. But in that quest, I'm losing myself, right? I'm not taking care of myself, or I'm getting confused, or my dawah team is getting confused. We have like 10 members in the dawah team, and they are losing their deen. So overall, we are going on a loss, right? So that's one of the things that we have to be very careful about. So how could you be at a loss? And that's related to safety, as I said. When you are driving a car, the safety measures are different than when you are riding a bicycle. So sometimes people get into fame or wealth, inappropriate wealth. There is also a danger of opposite gender. So it's not just like women, but same thing applies for both. I mean, I do see many of these situations, and it could manifest in different ways. Okay. So obviously, being part of the dawah team at the masjid, I do get requests, when a brother is interested in a non-Muslim. Okay? Now, it's easier for the brother. They can play the Ahlul Kitab card, right? But then it's really, really harmful in the long term, right? You can't have a family with one spouse being on one deen and the other on the other deen, okay? The second thing I also see from the sisters, right? The sister, may Allah protect us, gets emotionally involved with someone, and I get on a call with them and I can see they have no interest in the deen. They might even say the shahada just for the sake of it. But then what? Right? So it's just your own safeguarding is really, really important. You don't want to lose yourself for sake of someone else. So first and foremost, protect yourself. Okay, the second thing is desensitization. So the sister Jazakallah khair, she mentioned about growth in your own worship. But what can happen is you can actually go lower than where you are today because of desensitization. So what happens is when you're doing dawah, you will have to focus on the most important things. Even the hadith said to Mu'adh radiallahu anhu to focus on tawheed. So you might meet non-Muslims, you might meet new Muslims, and you're focusing on tawheed or you're focusing on salah, and they have so many vices that they're into, and you'll have to turn a blind eye. You have to look the other way. You may not have to bring them up because it wouldn't work. It's not part of the prioritization. But what can happen as you do that, if you don't consider that bad in your heart, you can become desensitized to that. And you might start feeling that, hey, you know what, this guy prays like once a week, or this sister, she prays once a week. I can skip my sunnah. So whatever your level was, you can become desensitized and you can start dropping things from your own routine. The last threat that we have for da'is or du'as is to not play in your own league. Okay, so what I mean by that is, same thing, right? So if you are competing in some sports, you could be playing with someone who is much higher in the league than you. Now what happens, you yourself get confused. You might be starting to talk to a philosopher, they confuse you, you don't have knowledge, and you don't even have time or resources to learn all the jargon that person was using, and now you're like confused or your iman is weak. So playing in your own league is very important. You don't have to go about the hardest, craziest, the most sophisticated, the externally repeller of Islam. Play in the league that's easy. There's many people. Choose your candidates wisely. Another thing that people also do is sometimes they make stuff. And this has happened to like some major du'ats. As they are debating and they can't find an argument to prove their point, they may change their religion to the point that some scholars would say that, look, bro, by doing this, you've actually crossed the boundary of Islam. Okay, and there are examples like this in Toronto. So, being careful about it, you don't have to become like, super challenging, debating, and really going outside of your league. So that is not to scare you up, but just so that like you know what you're getting into and you play it safe, inshallah. Okay, any questions about that? Yes?
Are you going to go over ways to protect ourselves? So for example, what to do in those situations?
Okay, good. So what I would say is to have a good balance, right? So let's say obviously you have your own family, your work, and all these things, and then you have your faraid, but then don't give all your time dealing with non-Muslims and new Muslims. So that should only be a small portion of your time, and then you should balance it out by, hanging out in company of people that you can look up to, scholars that you can look up to, going to classes, going to duruus, keeping your studies up, okay? And being careful, right? Like it's okay to move on, right? And we'll talk about it in a second. Look, when you are having a conversation with someone, you are making that choice. How long do you want to carry on this conversation? If someone does not feel like worth your time or seems to be in a different league, khalas, give them some resources. Say, you know what, these are good questions, kind of out of my scope, right? Out of my pay grade. Maybe these resources will help you. You can contact some people in there and move on. That's totally fine. You don't feel personally attacked, right? Same thing, for example, if you are serving someone in the community, you're not able to address everyone and everybody, right? So know your audience and then move on. The other thing that you can do on that is, having your own goals, right? So making sure that your habits are in check, whatever those were, whether it be sunnah, salah, or siyam, or reading, studies, so on and so forth, du'as, and things like that. In good company, of course. Saying so.
I think a good thing to keep in mind when facing something like that is to know that if we stop the conversation, that doesn't mean that Islam is wrong or something to that effect. It's just
Yes.
that we just stop talking with someone. That doesn't lead to any conclusion as such.
Very good. Yes. You not having the ability to answer someone doesn't mean that nobody else has the answer. It's just maybe not worth it, right? There are people who are PhDs. Just went last week. You ask them, will you accept Islam? And they will be like, what do you mean by you? What do you mean by accepting? Right? So there are people like that who are PhD and they talk like that, right? So really, I don't know what word should I use there, but. And the same thing for Dajjal, for example, right? So when Dajjal comes in, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ did not tell us that, okay, go and fight him or be in front of him to show how strong your iman is. Rather, avoid that fitna, avoid that test, because you don't know if you would be able to take that or not. Yes?
Also, what are your thoughts on giving dawah to the opposite gender, considering the
Yeah, so I personally would say avoid it. There's no need. Right? As I said, we've already seen that things happen, issues come in. Why take that risk, right? So because look, there's so many people, right? If it's only one or two people, then yeah, one could argue that it's a good idea. But if you have options, why not go for options that are safer and likely to produce better results? Right? I'm not saying it's like haram. Obviously, you can do it in a very halal manner, but it's a higher risk and so on and so forth. Okay, business problem again. So one problem was solved that, so you did the analysis like, bro, you gotta, lower your expenses. So we talked about the expenses, which is not losing the du'ats. And now the expenses are lowered. You're still selling like 1,000 packs of candies. You have a good margin, okay, very good margin, like 50% margin, let's say, including every other cost, rents, whatever, right? But still you don't have cash flow. What could go wrong now? Yes?
Maybe your external spending?
Yeah, all expenses included. You fixed it all. Yes?
You have no plan to scale.
Yeah, so you can't grow, but where is the money? Where is the cash flow?
Taxes?
Sorry?
Taxes?
Yes, everything included. Yeah, we're living in UAE, no taxes. Yes. Okay, let's just come back to the numbers. Very simple numbers game. Okay, so see what happens. You know, you order something from Amazon, you don't like it, what happens? You return it, right? So that's the other thing that's happening, which I mentioned earlier. People take shahada, but then they return the next day. So that's not part of today's focus, but that's something to keep in mind as well, that you have to continue that, dawah basically. Because otherwise people are just going back to their old ways, they're not practicing Islam. So here are the decisions that you can make. You cannot make the decision for someone else, right? Whether they will become Muslim or not, even someone is Muslim not praying, you can't make a decision whether they will start praying or not. The decisions that you can really make with discipline are for yourself. Where do you want to spend time? How much for dawah, how much for new Muslim, how much for your own self-development, your own durus, your own halaqah, your own classes, your own private worship. Who are the people that you're hanging out with? And what's the balance there? You know, from non-Muslims, new Muslims to people that you can look up to your peers. What will you focus on and what will you do about it? And also, this is applicable to anything else in life as well, that you can't do it alone. You need the help from Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. So as you pursue in your mission, don't drop your guard. You know, keep being a wali of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala, and the way you do it is by obeying Allah and staying away from what Allah has prohibited, making sure that you have your private worship taken care of, and it's not just like public stuff. You know, loving what Allah loves, spending time with Quran, spending time in your own private dhikr, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's module 1, just a recap, why we are doing it, how we are doing it, what are some of the risks associated with it. Yeah, any questions about that?